Today's problem is near and dear to my heart, something I've experienced myself and something many of my favorite people in the world have experienced. And today I want to talk about burnout. I think in my lifetime, burnout has increased over and over, 2-3 times what the percentage has been when I was a kid. I remember my parents used to say, I don't remember them talking about burnout, but I remember they would talk about friends of theirs as having a midlife crisis. You remember that phrase where we didn't really know what to say was happening, but someone just kind of broke. Now we've defined and we've kind of coined this phrase as a culture of burnout. I think it's a really important part of our culture. It's an increasing problem inside, especially accounting firms. I'll give you some statistics here in a second. But I think it's also an indication that we are out of control with the way we think about work. The CDC has actually defined burnout. It's taken it from this colloquialism, from this strange kind of concept where we think about whether it's a cigarette or think about someone who is burning the candle at both ends. We have all these analogies for what it means to be burnt out, but we all agree that what it is like we have nothing left. Our body has hit our brain, our psyche has hit some sort of a wall that we all agree is unhealthy and comes from an unhealthy problem with work. I believe it's preventable. I believe that it is not just possible, but it's incumbent upon us as accounting firms, as accounting professionals, to figure out how to not just address the burnout that's in our firm, but to create an opportunity for preventable ways of creating a culture that identifies burnout even before it happens. According to Fishbowl, 79% of U.S. workers have experienced burnout in the last 12 months. Now, I understand that burnout is variable and people think of it in different ways, but the truth is 79% of the U.S. believes that they have hit a wall mentally and physically in their work that has created this, in my mind, unneeded and undue stress in their lives and in their work. That is an alarming number, but there's an even more alarming number if you're part of an accounting firm. 94% of accounting professionals who were interviewed as a part of Fishbowl's interview say that they have experienced some sort of burnout in the past 12 months. Probably that includes tax season in that 12 months at some point, right? That is higher than, listen to this, healthcare numbers. Now, I'm not going to argue that what we're doing in accounting is more important than healthcare, anything like that. But what I'm saying is that accounting is rising in the professions of human beings who believe that work has created a stalemate in their head, in their brain. And I believe it's completely something, not completely in our control, but something that it's incumbent upon leaders and firms to approach and to deal with. I have a resource today that the accounting firms that I'm working with are using right now. But the problem comes from the way that we address stress inside of accounting firms. Here's what I mean. I don't have a lot of time to unpack exactly what the stress cycle is, but we know from the beginning of the human brain that even the oldest human brains have dealt with stress. And it's a way that our body deals with a threat in our lives. So stress is just a threat to our caveman brain. And the very first, it goes through this cycle of 3 things that happen inside of our brain. First, we perceive a threat. Imagine a caveman perceiving a saber-toothed tiger getting ready to attack him. Sounds grandiose, but this is what's happening in your brain when you get to work and you feel as though work is piled up to the point where maybe it's clients who are mad, maybe it's a boss who's being passive aggressive, maybe it's a coworker who you're having a hard time working with. But those things build up over and over and over to the point where you come to work and burnout happens because your brain has perceived a threat. And the deepest part of your brain perceives that threat the way a caveman perceived death. And the next thing that happens is that your brain wants to take action. And we know that there are 3 types of actions that your brain sees as options. All right, well, you've heard this before: fight, flight, or freeze. So here are the three options that your brain believes it has when it believes that it's perceived a threat of burnout at work or a threat of stress and unmanageable anxiety at work. You fight. Many of you know people who fight at work. It's this defense mechanism verbally that we get, whether you say something to someone about a problem in the firm and they immediately get defensive. That's not them being an angry person. That's not them just being edgy or all the things that we use to describe personalities. Often inside of an accounting firm, because of burnout, that is their caveman brain responding to the threat that's in front of them. So that fight can often be that. There's lots of different ways to fight, by the way. Passive aggression is one of those. And it happens in a lot of firms. There's passive aggression all over the place. And it doesn't happen just because someone has a personality problem or is a grumpy person. It often happens because of the way that we deal with the stress cycle in accounting firms. So the stress cycle starts with a threat. It then moves to action, fight, flight, or freeze. Flight is often that feeling of just checking out. Where you just stop arguing, you stop trying, and you just check out. We see a lot of this happen when people just get into this zombie mode where they're just trying to do whatever it means to get by. So the stress cycle is you initiate, you acknowledge that there is a threat, you begin to take action in one way or the other, fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze is often just literally like call in sick. Like, I'm just not going to deal with this today. But then the next thing that happens, the caveman perceives the saber-toothed tiger. It then fights, and it saves that caveman saves himself, and his brain does the job of recognizing the stress and fighting to save his life. And then the next stage in a healthy stress cycle, just part of who we are as people, is debrief. It's that opportunity to stop. I always think of it as like the caveman sitting around the fire telling all of his buddies about this fight that he had and that he got through it and he lived. And all of that verbal debrief is part of what a healthy stress cycle includes. So now you've perceived a threat, you've taken action, you've debriefed. Now your body and your brain are ready to go back again. And I know this might sound depressing. It might sound like, oh my gosh, you're just creating the stress cycle in order to continue this. But that's what a cycle is, and that's what life is. Life is stress. And accounting life is incredible amount of stress. We're not going to avoid it. We can decrease it. But the most important thing that we can do when it comes to the stress in our accounting firms is realize that there is a healthy way for us to cycle through stress. It starts with perceiving a threat. It includes taking action. The taking action and the fighting is sometimes the healthy way of fighting is to get the work done. It's to put time blocks into your calendar. It's to create opportunities where you can stop things from coming in. It's saying to good clients, I'm sorry, but you're not a good fit. We don't have capacity here. Whatever it is, it's that opportunity to get the work done. But then the part that accounting firms do the worst is the debrief. It's the decompression. It's the opportunity to talk about it. It's the opportunity to lick your wounds, to sit together and to say what's happening, and to understand that this is a normal part of human life. And what happens with burnout, remember, we're into 3 cycles. You can see them on your screen right now. Perceive a threat, take action, and debrief. Burnout happens when we get stuck in stage 2 of the stress cycle. This happens especially during tax season, where we grab a 1040, we grab number 62 of 481 tax returns we have to get done by April 15th. And we take number 62 and we take it to our desk and we perceive the threat. We look down at it. We realize this is complicated. We realize that the customer didn't give us everything we need, and we finally get through 1040 number 62 on our list. And instead of debriefing, instead of going through and saying, we go get number 63. And maybe we have to because the day's moving fast and we just have to go get the next one. But at some point we have to intersect. The best leaders in the best firms that are going to make it to the next generation of accounting firms, that are going to be able to use the technologies that we've created to create wonderful places to work and great opportunities to grow firms, are firms that are understanding we have to create opportunities for our team to get into the third cycle of the stress cycle. The third component of the stress cycle, which is debrief. We have to find opportunities to talk. We have to find opportunities to stop. We have to show and be able to measure the burnout that is inside of our team. We have to be able to measure the opportunities for burnout in our team. We have to be able to acknowledge and assess that there is stress that is unchecked inside of our teams. I've created 2 resources for you today. The first one is what I call the Burnout Risk Assessment. This is an opportunity for you to go through each of your team members and to get an understanding of where they are in their stress cycle and how close they are to burnout inside of your firm. I love this risk assessment. It's really simple. It's really quick. The best firms are doing this 3 times during tax season for every single staff member. Once mid-January, once mid-February, and once at the beginning of April, right before your last push before the deadline, to make sure that you understand and take a temperature of the firm. The other resource I have for you today, I call taking the temperature of the firm. It's understanding as a firm, how does it feel here? If you're a leader in the firm, you may not realize how the level of anxiety, how the level of burnout, how the level of stress has risen throughout tax season. If you're the kind of leader that goes in and closes your door and just hopes it all goes away, I guarantee you the temperature of anxiety and burnout inside your firm is going up. This is an opportunity to measure, to stop, and to take a moment to say, we need an intersect. We need to make sure we get to that third stage of the stress cycle collectively as a firm. You know, one of the things that the pandemic did was created an opportunity for us to work at home, created more opportunities for us to be more flexible with the way we work, but it also created more opportunity for us to be disconnected from one another. What I'm asking for every firm to do is to collectively pull together and be aware that the stress cycle inside of our firm, both individually with individual employees and our collective stress cycle, has risen and has become one of the worst places to work in America when it comes to stress and anxiety and burnout. It is in your control, whether you are listening to this and you're a staff member, to control your own burnout, to manage your own stress, to set boundaries that make sure that you get through every stage of a healthy stress cycle inside of the firm. And if you're a firm leader today, it is within your purview, and also it's incumbent upon you to build a firm that understands what a healthy stress cycle looks like. We're not going to get rid of stress. Yes, you need to do the things to get rid of the unneeded stress and the ridiculous stress that comes from, but we know that this profession is stressful. So we need to set up not to just respond to burnout, but to prevent it. I think about it like the oil changes in my car. I don't get an oil change in my car just because all of a sudden the engine started smoking. I don't say, oh, it's time for an oil change. I get an oil change in my car so the engine doesn't start smoking. The burnout problem in my car happens when I didn't change the oil in time. And this is the problem with burnout in your firm. It's not because we've got entitled employees. It's not because they're just stress outside of the world. It's because we haven't done the oil changes. We haven't done the assessments. We haven't done the individual engagements with our teams. And it's time to create a moment of intersect in the profession and in your firm. Choose to be proactive about the stress cycle in your firm.